Hello and welcome to my live. I'm Andrea. I am your host tonight I don't know. This lighting in here is so bright. Anyway, I am hanging out on a Monday night with you guys and talking all things real estate and all things Ocala and I don't know, just kind of chit-chatting with everyone. There. That sort of helped. I don't know. I don't know. I lost track of time and I looked up and it was 6:30. So we are in it. We are definitely in it. Holy smokes. I know it's been a few since I did one of these, but it's because I was traveling for work, which you would think, why on earth would, of all jobs to be in where you have to travel for work, a realtor, not one of them. That actually is like the opposite of what you would think. But it just so happens that it is a thing. And I used to travel for work all the time back before I was married with kids and stuff like that. And I enjoyed it. I actually literally lived out of a suitcase. And I had, prior to real estate, I would literally go between 5 states and 18 locations. And I would just go in and do whatever that particular location needed me to do that day. So it was a lot of fun. They called it a float position. So if somebody had they were sick or there was a wedding or whatever, I could be anywhere from, it was in the retail world. But anyway, I would go in and do anything from being a salesperson to a trainer to service person to a manager for the day. It was like whatever needed to be done, I was it for that day. So it was a lot of fun. I used to love that. And then I was like, I cannot even go on a date because I don't know what state I'll be in. And I met some people that had been like doing that job for 20 years and they were so lonely. And I was like, I want a family. I want to settle down. And I really wanted to find the place that was home. So I traveled around through that job and looked at all of the different locations and I found Ocala and it was it for me. I almost moved to Jacksonville, Florida. It was so close. It was like ridiculous. I did move there for a very short period of time. But it wasn't quite right. It did have the beach, which was nice. It had all the amenities. It was like right there on the border of like Georgia and Florida. I mean, it was so close. But it didn't feel like home. It was too big and too spread out and too much traffic and too much hustle and bustle. And there were skyscrapers and stuff. And it wasn't small town enough for me. I would have had to have gone outside of the area or something. So it was fine in my 20s, but it wasn't quite right. So Ocala just kind of checked all the boxes for me. And I have been here ever since. And then I actually got out of the retail world and I was in real estate and I've been in there and now we've come full circle. But now my husband actually does travel with me. I am actually going to different realtor associations and there's 58 in the state of Florida alone. Is it 58 or 38? I don't know. There's a lot. But we've been traveling around and he kind of holds down the fort and helps me with some of the driving and stuff. And we went to Miami for a couple of days. Holy smokes, you want to talk about traffic? Wow. It is ridiculous. Okay. Nobody in Ocala can ever complain to me about traffic after I have been down there. That was ridiculous. Okay. But yeah, I went down there to teach and they're actually having me come back. That's a whole nother story. I was having a little bit of a meltdown about that today, but that's okay. And then I went also last week, went to the Emerald Coast, which is part near in Alabama. It was right on the border and it was a beautiful area, but it's in a different time zone. So I was very, very confused and I felt so bad because I literally had to have somebody help me with the time. Normally I am like right on it. You take the breaks every hour I could not figure out what hour it was. I was freaking out because we also had the time change that weekend, like the day before, that was the time change. And then I show up for class. I went like all the clocks were giving me a different time. So at one point I went over to the person at the hotel because I was like, I don't trust anything at this point. I do not trust anything because I've got the time change and I've got the time zone change and I am so confused and like my watch, my phone, everything was just confused. So I went over to a hotel and my husband kept telling me this is the time, but he's late for everything. So not that I don't trust him, but I honestly didn't. I honestly did. I trust my husband in most things, but not when it comes to time. And I absolutely hate being late. I have to be early. So I went over to the hotel person, the rep at the front desk, and I was like, "Could you please do me a favor?" And it was like two people up there, and they're like, "Sure." And I was like, "What time is it?" Like, that's all I need to know. And they're looking at me. I've got a phone in one hand, I've got a watch on the other, and I have no clue. I said, "I think I know what time it is, but I cannot be late. Please tell me what you think the time is." They told me, and I'm like, "Okay, that was my best guess too." But then I get into the classroom that I'm supposed to teach in for the morning, and the clock in there was 20 minutes off. So that did not help at all. So like I don't even know. Now, mind you, I could have gone ahead and set my phone as like a stopwatch or something like that. Um, but I didn't. That occurred to me later. But yeah, so it was something. So yeah, I am going around and I am teaching, and it's a lot of fun. I'm probably only going to do it maybe once or twice a month. Because I have so many other responsibilities and stuff like that around here. And plus I like being in Ocala. This is home. I mean, other places are nice to visit, but this is home. So, yeah, but it is fun. We've been having some fun with that. So, but yeah. I was so nervous, especially about Miami, because when they come to the Realtors Association, we do like this big convention once a year, and the Miami Association, they show up and the ladies are decked out, okay? Like decked out, and they are wearing stilettos, like a whole slew of them. You can always tell when they're from Miami because now me, I'm going to be in my Skechers or something comfortable because there's a lot of walking going on, and it's like a 4-day event. So I want to be able to live. Like I don't want to be slowed down. I got places to go. Right. So it's just, yeah. So I was going down to Miami to teach a class, and I honestly was losing my mind over my shoes, of all things. It was just kind of crazy. So, but it was really interesting in checking out the different parts of Florida because I haven't seen all parts of Florida. I've seen a lot of it. I've spent a lot of time in Sarasota, a lot of time in Fort Myers, a lot of time in Tampa and Orlando, Gainesville, definitely Tallahassee. Our son goes to college. I mean, definitely in Jacksonville. I actually lived there for a short period and was like considering staying there. So I mean, but that's not all of it. There's so much difference between like the Emerald Coast and Destin area of Florida, and then going into like Ocala, which is like horse country and it's very rural, and it kind of looks more like South Georgia. And then we have no beach. And then you go over to like Jacksonville, and it's this thriving metropolitan area, and it's just like, and then you go over to Orlando, and it's like Mouse House and then some. It's like every theme park. And then you go down to Miami, and it's a totally different vibe. It's almost another country. It is so different. So yeah, it's really, really, really cool to look at all of these different areas and go, this is just one state. This is all one state. And we have so many different options for this. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy what we have here. But I love it. I love visiting the other areas. But again, Ocala is home. I like the small town vibe. I love going to Publix and running into, 15 people that I know, and, just like that chit chatty kind of, I don't know, just hometown feel. Love that. So that's why we're in Ocala, or at least for me. We did consider at one point my husband and I, we considered moving to like Sarasota once we retire, but we don't want to. We don't want to. So, I mean, because they get hurricanes and it is a lot more expensive down there. And you totally lose that like small town vibe, I mean, yeah, you'll have a lot more shopping and you have more restaurants and stuff, but we can enjoy that. We can go down there for vacations and stuff and enjoy the area and then go back home. So I love visiting other portions of Florida, but this is it for us. So love that. I think we'll just always have Ocala as our home base. So, but I love to travel. I really do. So anyway, I have no questions on here yet. So that's awesome. That's probably going to be a short night over here because I haven't been on here in a few weeks. So probably everybody's like giving up on me. I don't know. Sorry. This weekend I was supposed to get this cut finally donated and it just didn't end up happening because I've got a very special guest that's going to come on and she's going to do it and we're going to do it on a video. But nope, if I say anything else, I'll give it away. But they couldn't figure it out this weekend. So maybe next weekend. So pretty soon you're going to see me with like not even shoulder length. It's going to be probably up to here because I have to have like, I keep looking in the thing, but I have to have enough to actually donate. And then what's left is what's left. So you shall see it shorter. What else is going on? Oh yes. Back to the Miami thing. So if you've been on my channel for a while now, you know that I do speak Spanglish. It's not proper Spanish at all. And I apologize to anybody that thinks that actually speaks Spanish because you've heard it. It's a decent accent, but it is definitely Spanglish. And that's what I was taught. I lived in Puerto Rico for about 4 or 5 years when I was a teenager. And that's the Spanish I learned. That's what I picked up. So so not perfect. Definitely not perfect. It's not like, it's proper Castilian Spanish or whatever. And I've taken Spanish classes and stuff to try and keep it up over the years, but it's nowhere near what it used to be. It used to be, I would dream in Spanish. It was, I spoke so much and so often that it was just second nature. That has been over 20 years ago. So despite having a better Spanish now, I've lost a lot. I've lost a lot of the vocabulary and stuff. And I would imagine that some of my more country Southern accent has probably seeped into it. I don't know. I'm not sure. My accent is muddled as it is. Anyway. But when I was in Miami, I ordered a sandwich in Spanglish. It wasn't even proper Spanish. It was Spanglish. I ordered the sandwich in Spanish, and the person that I ordered it through from the association, she was so delighted that I spoke Spanish, and she has now hired me to teach 14 hours of classes completely in Spanish. Did I mention I haven't spoken it regularly in over 20 years? Yeah. So I'm going to be brushing up on that. So it's 3 hours in the morning and then 4 hours in the afternoon, 2 days, 14 hours of me speaking in Spanish and a whole classroom of people listening to my Spanglish. So I got that news today. Yeah, that was awesome. And I can turn it down. I do not have to do it. But I like a challenge. So don't worry about me. I feel bad for the people that have to hear my unpracticed Spanish. So my husband, my friends up here that do speak it all the time, because they speak it at home or whatever, it's their primary language. They think it's freaking hilarious because they know I speak it, but not practice it very often. So So that should be interesting. That should be interesting. I may have some of my friends and family from Ocala in the class just to enjoy. They're gonna be sitting there eating popcorn, watching this, hopefully not disaster take place. So it should be interesting. Lexi Whitmarsh. Hi, how are you? Are you on here laughing at my dumb self? Next time I go to order food in another language, I should maybe make it very clear that that's as far as I want to take that. Leave it alone. But yeah, yeah. I was actually not feeling too bad about it because, the first one, it was like, oh, well, it's got a Spanish version to it. So I've got all of the 37 pages of text in Spanish. Um, but that's only the 3-hour class. The 4-hour class is not translated for me. So I get to do a nearly 40-page translation work as well. And all of the slides are also only in English. So I get to translate those as well. And it's next month. I don't It is terrifying. Yes, Lexi. Yeah, that's like, I heard the news and my soul left my body. So bad. But I have to say, unlike maybe other countries where they speak like French or um German, Russian, like, there are some languages where they're not very forgiving. Whereas Spanish, by and large, they are this people that speak Spanish are so kind and so forgiving. And they, even if it's not perfect, they are just so thrilled that you are even giving it a go. So, um, and a lot of it, especially in like Miami or something, it's going to be a kind of Spanglish anyway, because that's basically when you have those areas that are primarily English and then it's kind of got like, a half and half based on who's living there. It basically develops into its own little language anyway. So I don't know a lot of the slang that they use there because again, that's primarily more of a Cuban Spanish, which I am not great at as I have never even been to Cuba. It's a very, very, very fast Spanish with their own slang terms that I do not know. So mine is a Puerto Rican Spanish, which is it's got its own slang, but yeah. So hopefully I don't use the wrong word and cuss people out. Case in point, recently I had somebody visit us and they were originally, oh man, I can't even remember what country they were from. Maybe Venezuela. It seems like it started with V. Anyway, so they spoke Spanish primarily, and it was a whole big, huge family, and they were so, so nice. And I loved working with them, but I was definitely speaking in English. And but at one point they were talking to each other and they called me mono, like, and I'm like, I know that word, but to me, you just called me a monkey. And so I knew that they liked me, so I didn't want to take offense, but I'm sitting there going, so I finally just asked, I was like, why are you calling me a monkey? Because that's the word in like the Puerto Rican Spanish and that's the word for monkey. But no, for them it meant blonde. Mint blonde. So there are little weird things. So as long as I don't accidentally call somebody a monkey or something, we should be golden. I don't know. It should be interesting. But yeah, if you were to go and teach something like in Scotland or something like that, even though you speak English perfectly, it's gonna be a little weird. It's just a little weird. So yeah, I know. You would think monkey and blonde, same thing. Yeah, same word, but yeah, it was it's like, I mean, I know that word really well. I know that word. I don't know why I know that word, but I do. and I know you just called me a monkey. And they were all like agreeing or whatever. And they were talking about my hair, that they liked my blonde hair. And but I didn't hear that. I heard Spanish and I heard them like all agreeing, what a pretty monkey I was, basically. It's like, yes. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Like if somebody from England talks about the boot, that they're talking about the trunk of their car, and I'm looking at my shoes going, it's not a boot, it's a sneaker, so it's just kind of one of those things, it's so odd. But I got myself into a lot of situations in Puerto Rico because I mean I really tried. I mean, I really put myself out there whether I knew it or not. I had a lot more gumption, I guess, when I was a teenager. And so I was determined to learn. I was going to conquer Spanish. I was going to use it every chance I got. And honestly, after a while, I forgot that I wasn't Puerto Rican. I honestly thought I blended. I did not. At this point, looking back, I'm like, wow, I was an idiot. But at the time, I thought I blended. I was Puerto Rican. I had the clothes. I had the attitude. I had the language. Yeah. I mean, somebody would ask me or kind of like make a comment or something. I was like, estoy boricua. Like, what's your problem? So yeah, it was, I guess it was an identity crisis. I'm not sure, but I was going to conquer it. But I made some rather interesting mistakes in Spanish when I was down there. I would mix words together. Like I knew the word for chicken and turkey, and I mixed them together somehow because you're trying to translate in your head, and you're at the same time trying to talk to somebody, and at the same time trying to figure out what you want. So I ordered something, but I ordered un sándwich de polvo, which is basically dust or powder. So every day, and it wasn't just once or twice. I literally, and it also could mean something kind of dirty. Don't ask. Do not ask. You don't want to know. So I went in and I would ask for this dirty sandwich almost every day at Subway. They had a Subway restaurant really close to where I worked, and I went in, and then I was with a very large group of friends that were perfectly, flawlessly bilingual, and we were going to go grab something to eat. And I was like, oh, I can show off my Spanish. Let's go to Subway. And so I did. I in front of a large group of teenagers, I ordered this dirty sandwich. Yeah, it wasn't it wasn't a shining moment. But one of my good friends out of the group, Monica, she was so nice, and she's just like, I'm sorry, what did you just say? And so I told her, like, how could you, I had the attitude for sure. And she's like, that's not what you think what you think you ordered is not what, but I'm like, but that's what I got. So obviously I said it. Yeah. There was quite a few moments of embarrassment, but I kept pushing forward. So, I'm going to do this. It's a nice opportunity to push me into dusting off all of my Spanish. And I do have several agents that speak Spanish as their first language, and I definitely want to, to help them and to support them the same as anybody else. So, I'm going to be working on this very quickly because, again, I have a 40-page document that I have to translate, and within a month. So a page a day. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. And yeah, not only that, but of course, come up with 7 hours of speaking and content to go over. Because unfortunately, in my English classes that I teach, I don't really stick to the content very well. I kind of take it more of a guideline. Should be interesting. So we'll see how that turns out. I'll let you know. It's at the end of April, so we'll see. We'll see. Yes, once it's over, y'all, I'm going to be celebrating. So May 1st is going to be a huge, super awesome day. I can't even speak English now. I'm so screwed. No, it is going to be it's going to be awesome. I will be very much happy come May 1st when all of that is over with, and we'll see. We will see what happens. We'll need some updates. Oh, I will tell you how it goes. Trust me. I will tell you how it goes. Because yeah, maybe maybe if I looked like I blended, it wouldn't be quite, but as much as there are Spanish speaking people that look like me, it does tend to, I don't know, shine a spotlight when I walk in and attempt this. I remember going into like McDonald's with my dad when I first moved to Puerto Rico, and everybody that was at the front counter would immediately run to the back, literally leave this place, run to the back, and immediately start going, no, you because they didn't want to have to talk to. It's McDonald's. I can point at a picture. I mean, so yeah, but I mean, it's pretty obvious that I did not blend, but now I can definitely order a sandwich without a problem in Spanish, and I did, and this is where I find myself. So it is an awesome opportunity. I'm definitely going to do it. I'm dusting off some of my books and stuff, and I actually got a really cool workbook. Because again, it's in there. You don't lose it completely. It's just kind of been stagnating. So I've used it a little bit, mostly in property management, truthfully, because nobody ever asks me if I speak Spanish. They just assume I don't. And I enjoy that very much. I've actually gotten a lot of fun out of that over the years. So we'll go in, it'll be like a husband and wife or something, or a whole family will come in, and they're all rapid fire Spanish speaking back and forth to each other. And they're discussing the house that we're walking through. And they may even do that on a couple of different houses. And then at the very end, I wait until the absolute last second when they're just about to leave. And I will ask them, if there's anything else they need, I'm available. Let me know. I'm here to help them. Totally in Spanish. And the looks on their face, it just tickles me every time. I know that's messed up. I know I should tell them, but and that's normally what they say. They're like, but you didn't tell us you spoke Spanish. And I'm like, well, you didn't ask. So it's way too much fun. It's way too much fun. I love it. But they're also like, brutally honest about the houses, which really helps me. I can, maybe something they wouldn't normally say in English, they'll say it in Spanish to each other. And I mean, it's right. It's not like I'm eavesdropping. I'm standing right there. So, it's all fair. It's all fair. And if they ask, I do tell them, it's just they never ask. So fun. So fun. But yeah, my daughter actually, she took Spanish. She's taking Spanish again this summer. She's actually taking college courses in Spanish. So we had hoped to be able to send her down to Puerto Rico, the same as I got to. She wanted to spend at least a month there last summer, but there was a lot of crime going on. So we opted out of that one, but it is definitely on the table maybe for later, or if we find, a safe situation. Because again, she is more blonde than I am, and does not blend. Okay, does not blend. So, and they don't get me wrong, there are definitely blonde Puerto Ricans and Dominicans and all of the stuff, but it's not as common, we'll say. So it definitely, you tend to stand out a bit. So, yeah. So if there's a lot of crime in the area, standing out maybe not be such a great idea. So anyway, but yes, I will definitely give you some updates. Should be interesting. I'm hoping that I don't pass out. That would be awesome. But it has been a lot of fun and it has been very challenging. So I've definitely been enjoying that. So yeah, just another challenge and another aspect of real estate that you get to know and you get to do and stuff. So there's just so much. But there's a whole bunch of stuff that happened in real estate recently. Holy smokes. I'm actually thinking about doing a video just on that because it's like the big talk, is the buyers not being able to use their okay. There was a whole Department of Justice thing and NAR got sued and they're doing a settlement and the settlement is getting accepted, I guess. I don't know. There's like a whole bunch of things. So some of the stuff, it was interesting, but there's like, 700 pages, which who's going to read that anyway, but broke it down to a few things. And there's three major changes that we saw, which is, in MLS currently, the listing agent, they actually figure out what they're going to get paid. And then in the MLS, they put what portion of what they're getting paid is going to the buyer's agent. So the buyer sometimes doesn't have to pay a commission towards their agent. Sometimes it's from the seller. And in advance, it's just, this is what's going to happen. And then what's interesting with that, and I can kind of see their point, is that sometimes the buyer's agent will forget who they're working for because they are technically getting paid from the seller's side of it. So it just kind of makes for odd negotiations. So I can definitely see that. And then they're also saying it's not fair that the seller should have to pay for essentially a buyer's agent. That's a buyer closing costs, not a seller. So I can see that as well. And I always have. So yeah, I mean, I can see that. But what they did say is on your own websites, if you want to, I can't say that they're trying to like completely kill off the MLS or anything, but on your own website, you can offer that cooperating agent. So if I have a listing, I can put on my website that I'm offering part of my compensation to the other agent. So it can go on there, but it can't go on the MLS, which is kind of weird. But anyway, I think they did that for like builders or developers or something like that, because builders and developers, a lot of times their stuff doesn't even go into the MLS. They have their own separate thing because they own the houses that they're selling. So they have a lot more leeway. So, they're like, well, we're the builder, we're the owner, we're the seller. So how would we do that if we're not? I mean, that forces us to put it into MLS, but then it doesn't show like what compensation we're offering. So it's kind of odd. So I think they had some rules basically for builders, but you can do it on your own website too. And then of course the buyer broker agreement will be required before even showing houses, which right now a lot of agents have never even seen a buyer broker agreement. They don't even know where to get it, which is crazy. So for our company, I've always said that's required. And I make it required not necessarily so much for the buyers, but I actually make it required for the agents because I don't like the idea of agents will get so wrapped up in going and doing a listing presentation. They're going to practice their listing presentation. They're going to do this and they're working on their pitch and they're working on when to go over the contract and what's in the contract. Da, 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 da. But then they go and work with buyers and they don't give that same care to the buyers in most cases. And I wanted not to have that in my company. So I made it mandatory, not just for the buyer broker agreement, which is a contract, but I also made it so that they have to do a buyer consultation. So what a lot of agents do is they skip that part and don't have a sit down conversation as to what your wants and your needs and your dreams are and all of like where you're working and figuring out a radius around that and figuring out schools and figuring out, they don't get to the meat of how to help you and get that information. They skip it and are just like, hey, okay, you want that neighborhood, let's just go to that area. And here's some houses. And okay, let's go. Or they'll just put you on a list and then you get automatically sent houses. And then they're like, okay, did you like those? Okay, let's go and show you those. And they just kind of skip over so much. And I think it's a disservice to buyers. So I've always made it mandatory that they have that discussion and find out how to help. Like if anybody has ever done a Calendly with me and they're like, hey, I'm thinking about moving to Ocala, I go over a list of questions. You might not know that I'm going and I'm writing it down and making sure that I've asked the right questions, made sure but I know I'm going through them. So I go down the list of questions like, one of the questions is, where are you going to be working and how far away from work do you want to be? And if that doesn't work, like if they're retired or if they're remote workers or something like that, then I'll ask how close to civilization they want to be. And civilization to me is Starbucks. And I know that sounds so weird. Yeah, I know. But it makes sense because Starbucks does a lot of research before they will open a store. And so they know where the hubs are of business. And so even if you never enter a Starbucks ever, you never get a Starbucks drinks, that's still a really good pinpoint to figure out a radius around. So if I'm like, okay, how far from Target and Starbucks? Because again, they will pinpoint the areas, how far away do you want to be? And it could be like 15 minutes. If I say Dunkin' Donuts, there's a Dunkin' Donuts on every corner. Okay. They will open them and close them like nobody's business. That doesn't help me at all. You can be out in the middle of absolutely nowhere and you will find a McDonald's or a Dunkin' Donuts. That doesn't help, but you will not find a Starbucks. Starbucks has to be in a more metropolitan area. It has to have a lot of people in order to do it. So that's why I go off of that. So I mean, those are questions. I know sounds weird, but those are the questions to ask, So how far away from the hospital do you need to be? I mean, that's a huge thing. For some people, if if you've got like asthma or something like that, you need to be close by. If you're going in for some kind of treatment regularly, you need to be close to that hospital or whatever. So, I don't know. It's just, there's a list of questions that I go through and you have that buyer consultation and you have this is what I'm going to do for you. And this is what I expect is to make an actual relationship here. And you do with the buyer broker agreement. So, and honestly, some people are like, oh no, I'm not going to sign that. Well, the same thing with a listing. If somebody says, oh, I'm not going to sign that, you just, do as you do. And, we'll figure it out later. No, that's not how you do business. Here's what you can expect from me. Here's all the stuff I'm going to do. And here's what I expect from you, like a commitment. And so, yeah, so a lot of agents, I can't even say realtors because not all of them are realtors, but a lot of licensees, real estate licensees are just shocked, like absolutely panicking right now because they've never had those conversations and they don't even know how to start the process. And for us over here, we're just kind of like, so it's been about a decade and y'all are catching up. So for me, I honestly think it's a good thing. There's definitely some aspects of it that I'm like, well, that wasn't well thought out. Like with the builders and stuff and like, okay. So there's some aspects I'm like, you might want to, the VA loans and stuff, you might have an issue with that because they're not allowed to pay a buyer's agent. So, and they're only allowed a certain percentage for their closing costs from the seller. So, I definitely do not want our veterans to not get representation that they should have just because they don't fit in this box. So I want to make sure, everything changes the way it's supposed to change so that everybody gets what they should all get the correct number, a level of service that they deserve. But like forcing somebody just because they're a veteran to not have a buyer broker and to have to work through the listing agent who is definitely working for the seller. That's not, I don't like that. I don't like that. So there are certain aspects that I'm not a huge fan of moving forward, but I'm sure that will be addressed. I'm sure it will have some changes with through the VA. I'm sure they are getting bombarded with people going, hey, no. So I'm sure that we'll have some adjustments with that and everything. But for me personally, I honestly think this is all a good thing, and it's going to force a lot of real estate licensees to be professionals and to help the buyers even more by setting down, like, here's what you can expect, and here's the steps, and here's let's have a consultation. Let me really get to know what you need. So I don't know. I personally think it's a good thing. So, but I keep seeing everybody on Facebook, and they're just like, I'm like, the sky is not falling. Y'all should have been doing this for years anyway. I mean, how can you negotiate on somebody's behalf or take these people into somebody's home and you don't have any paperwork from them at all? That is ridiculous. That is absolutely ridiculous. So hopefully this will push and shove our licensees that are maybe not, they're used to doing things a certain way into doing things another way. Hopefully. I think it'll make us all more professional in the future, but we'll see. I don't know. So yeah, I don't know. I'm definitely kind of excited about the whole thing, truthfully. I know that's weird, but I've been saying literally for years that you should have a buyer consultation. You should get to know the person that you're finding a home for. It's their home. I mean, some of my buyers, I kept them. Or they kept me, I should say. I've been on a cruise with some of them. I mean, yeah. So, anyway, but it's also Florida, and if you live in Florida, you go on cruises. That's kind of like, it's almost mandatory because we have so many places to go out of. Excuse me. Oh, Brightline, the train, the high-speed train. Okay, I'm working on a video for that because next month I actually get to go on it. So excited. You have no idea how excited I am. So it is a high-speed train. I have been waiting for years for this high-speed train to come up here, and it opened the Orlando stop about, September of last year. And I was so excited about it. But I didn't actually have a reason to take it. So I honestly told my husband, I was like, I am going to go on a train ride tomorrow. I'm literally going to go on the train somewhere and then come back. I don't actually need to go anywhere. And he's like, no, you're not going to do that. Really, seriously. And I was like, no, I have to. I really want to go on this train. I've been wanting to go on this train forever. So he's like, okay, look, we're going to go on a cruise. We will make sure and take the train down to the cruise, which is down in Fort Lauderdale. So we are going to take it, and I'm going to take the smart fare, which is like the basic fare, and we're going to ride that on the way down. And then we're going to do the premium fare on the way back. And it lets you into, because the premium fare lets you into their lounge. So of course I'm going to get video of all of that. But a lot of the reason I'm so excited about this is a lot of people don't realize that not that long ago when I moved, I don't think it's that long ago, but when I moved to Florida, it was actually state law that the state was going to have high-speed train, and Ocala was one of the locations that was set to have the high-speed train go through. So I'm hoping that is the case. They did not actually end up doing the high-speed train. Brightline ended up doing the high-speed train, which is a private company, but it was law. It was literally, they had all of Brightline benefited quite a bit from what the state actually did, but the state didn't have to actually create all of the train and they didn't have to do any of that. So it kind of worked out both ways. But if you look at the map of what was supposed to happen, and where the tracks are supposed to go and where the stops are supposed to go and stuff. Ocala was on there. Ocala was on there, which was pretty cool. So I don't know what's going to happen next once they're done with Tampa. So it's going from Orlando to Tampa because it's supposed to be helping the I-4 corridor. That was what was actually supposed to be the first thing, according to the state, that was done. And it actually isn't. It went from Miami to Orlando and then over. Whatever. So we'll see what happens next. But that is my big question is it going south again and working on the other side, or is it going north, or is it going to do both? Because if it goes north, I'm really hoping that it goes through Ocala. Because how cool would that be to be able to, even if it's just in the villages, that's cool. But how cool would it be to be able to get on a train in Ocala and like 30 minutes later be in Orlando? And then you can fly out anywhere you want to go. And then you can go to Miami in like 3.5 hours. How cool is that? So right now I would have to go over to Orlando, which is about an hour away, park at the airport, and then take the train down, which is okay. It's doable, but how cool. Everybody in the villages, they could go to take their grandkids or stuff or whatever to Disney, or they could go to the beach over to Tampa, or they could go down to Miami, all of that in just a day trip. So cool. So cool. So I'm excited. I'm really excited for it. It's slowly working its way up there. But one of the big news that happened last week is that Brightline is opening a stop in Cape Canaveral. So you can go to Lake Nassau or, of course, the cruise ships, because it's one of the biggest locations for the cruise ships. And so once they open that up, they've already got Fort Lauderdale. They've already got Miami. It's not far. Those train stops are really not far from the ports where you can take cruises all over. So, and then they're going to have Tampa and Canaveral. So if they have all of that, like Cocoa Beach, Canaveral, if they have all of that, I mean, they've almost got every single one of the ports. Almost. They have, I think Jacksonville has a port. I think it's just Jacksonville, actually, that they're missing. Tampa, Miami, Fort Lauderdale. Yeah, I think it's just Jacksonville. So we'll see. I'm hoping they don't go north from Orlando and like Canaveral and all that and just go up to Jacksonville straight. I'm hoping they come up through the villages, Ocala, Gainesville, and Tallahassee. And then they have something go that way, because then it would hit like all the majors. But anyway, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. I think it really is going to depend on the toll roads, and I don't know, there's a whole bunch of stuff. I can't even fathom doing everything that they're doing, but I'm really hoping that it will all, I mean, can you imagine by the time my daughter is done with high school, we could go jump on a train and then we can just go to the cruise ship? I mean, that would be pretty cool. I mean, really, I think it's pretty cool. Anyway, I don't know. This is trying to do a service update. But yeah, so I have been bugging and nagging at people for quite some time to get that high-speed train up through Ocala. I don't know if it's going to happen, but I will have a very cool video. I just have to get the footage of what it's actually like to ride the Brightline. And I'm so excited about it. It's so cool. I'm hoping eventually that I will be able to go and teach at some of those places throughout the state by just jumping on the Brightline train and just going and coming back that night. And that would be so cool. That would be so cool. So yeah, pretty excited about that, because no driving. I don't mind driving. It's just if I can be driven, so nice. And those trains have Wi-Fi. I mean, just sitting there, having some snacks, having some drink, sit there, and all of a sudden you're in Miami. That is fantastic. That is fantastic. I cannot wait. And it's really not that expensive. I will get into it in detail, but they keep sending me like coupon codes and stuff. So we're taking the train from Orlando to Fort Lauderdale, and it was $39 each. That's not bad. And I have not gotten the ticket back yet because they keep giving. I missed a flash sale, which was buy one, get one, which, that would have been so good if I had gotten that one, but I just didn't see it in time. It was like 1 day only, and I saw it 4 days later. I was like, I was in the spam filter. But anyway, so yeah, it's normally like, depending on what part of the day, like there's different times of the day where it's less expensive. So it's anywhere from like 139 to 189, but you get drinks, you get snacks, you get the lounge, all of these really cool stuff. And I think it's different seats too. I don't know. I'm going to check it out. I will have all the details and lots of video to share. And I've literally been waiting years for this. I have just, the Chamber of Commerce president will tell you that I have nagged him into oblivion about this. So I'm like, come on, when's the train coming? When's the train coming? He's like, it's not coming up here. And I'm like, it's coming up here. I know it's coming up here. I've watched it. I know what the old laws were. And he's just like, maybe the Villages, but not Ocala. No, it's coming. It's just a matter of when. Eventually it will, but when is the question. So we'll see. Well, I guess that's it for me. You guys were so quiet tonight. Except for Lexi. Lexi was definitely chatting with me. I love actually having a conversation. Thank you, Lexi, for that. I love it. Some of you might be watching on your TV. I have had a few people tell me that they watch these videos on the big screen in their living room. These are facts I do not need to know. Do not tell me that. Oh my God. And the lighting in here, and it makes me look so white. But anyway, yeah, don't tell me. If you have me up on like an 80-inch screen, I don't need to know that. I don't need to know that. Yeah, it has been a while. All right. Well, I will be back next week on Monday. I am not going anywhere. My husband and I do have a cruise coming up. We're going to take the train. We're going to do the cruise. Then we're going to take the train back. So I will have so much to share with you. And I also want to share like how we do cruising in Florida, because you guys probably have to like travel down and then stay overnight. And then like, I know some people, they make sure like just in case they miss a flight, they don't want to miss their cruise. So they'll come down 2 nights early. Like we don't have to, we just get up and go drive over and be done. But this time we are going out of Fort Lauderdale. So we for sure are going the night before, which is fine. But this is going to be the first vacation I've ever done where we did not take the kids. So Michael's up at college and Lexi's staying with friends. And so, yeah, it should be very interesting. We'll see what happens with that. But yes, hubby and I are actually going to do a cruise. Sans children. We never even did a honeymoon. We just went straight. We got married. We went straight back to work because we had kids. We had stuff. We didn't have time. So we'll see how this goes. We are now going to attempt this. So we'll see what happens. And last weekend I went to Devil's Den, which was fun. So Devil's Den is a massive sinkhole here in Florida, and you go swimming in it, and it's lots of fun. So I will share that video coming up soon too, as soon as I make sure that all of the footage of me in my bathing suit is appropriately sanitized. Anyway, you guys have a great night. Thanks so much for hanging out with me and listening to my chatter. And I will see you next week. Same place, same time, 6:30 p.m. And we'll go from there. All right. Thanks. Bye.